David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review and a giveaway. I have said this many times, but one of my favorite things about going to pen shows is making new discoveries, learning about new companies. At the DC show this year, I was introduced to Motor City Pens and an interesting product line they produce. And they were kind enough to provide 2 pens for review, which you will see here today, both of which have a resin with very unique properties. They have the ability to change colors. So what I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of these pens, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about them. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Motor City Pens for providing these pens for review, and one of which will be given away to one of you. So stay tuned to the end of the review to learn how you can make one of these pens your very own. Motor City Pens is run by a gentleman by the name of Alex Fritz. The company is based near Detroit, Michigan, which if you are not aware, has the nickname of Motor City due to the large number of auto manufacturing plants and headquarters in the region. Alex is a senior in high school. Way back when he was a freshman, he started getting interested in making pens. He started off with kit pens, like many makers do, then quickly moved into the world of bespoke fountain pens. After turning pens for a while, he began to cast his own resins. As I mentioned, some of those resins have rather unique color-changing properties. The pens arrive in this simple box. On the top is the company logo, a couple of car exhaust pipes in the shape of the letter M, which is appropriate given the name and location of the company. Inside there is some soft padding, and inside there we have a little sleeve and a pen. This is the Motor City Pens V6, V6 being a reference to a V6 engine. I also have this pen here, which is called the i6, which refers to an inline 6 engine. The i6 has flat ends and a finial on the top, but for the sake of this review, I'm going to focus on the V6. I'll show you more of the i6 during the size comparisons, but the i6 is the pen that'll be given away. But here is the V6. It is made from a custom thermal shifting resin that changes colors based on temperature. How the material changes can be affected by a number of factors like the temperature of the environment and the rate of the temperature change. The change isn't instant when you hold on to the pen. I've had the color change if I held on to the pen for a while, or even from some of the friction heat of capping and uncapping the pen or removing the section. Now, my hands aren't overly warm, and I have some warm lights in here, so it'll be tough to demonstrate, but here are some picture examples. This is what the material looks like in its normal state. Here's what it looks like after holding it in my hand for a few minutes. Then for some drastic change, here is this. I removed the cap and then used a hairdryer on the barrel to heat it up, and you could see how it turned a very bright green. It's a cool and interesting feature to have in a pen. Now, I will demonstrate in the size comparisons, but the i6 model, this one here, starts off as more of a dark red and shifts into a much lighter red, almost a pink. As I mentioned, Alex creates his own resins. I will say that the materials for this pen feel a bit more plasticky than standard resin pens that you might already have in your collection. It doesn't feel cheap or flimsy. It's just a bit softer and lighter. Okay, let's take a look at the parts of this pen. The top of the cap comes to a blunt, rounded tip. This pen is clipless. The cap tapers up and the last inch or so is straight. There is a medium step down from the cap to the barrel, which is straight, into the last inch where it tapers down to a point. While still rounded, it's more rounded than the top of the cap. And then here's a look at the end of the barrel with a bit more of the color changing. And you can see here, just from holding the pen, I don't know if you can really tell, it's starting to turn a little bit green just from me holding on to it. The i6 model, which I will show you later, has a finial with the company logo. But this V6 is devoid of any branding. I would like to see some kind of branding on this pen somewhere. When it comes to bespoke pens made by smaller artisan shops, many can look fairly similar. And I just think it's important to brand your product so folks know where it came from. The cap can be removed with 3 rotations, and underneath we have a stainless steel number 6 Yovo nib. This nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, a 1.1 or a 1.5 stub, or a gold nib at an additional cost. You can even purchase this pen with no nib at a reduced cost, which is a nice feature to offer. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with an elongated flare. It then angles up until you reach the plastic threads and a very small step up to the remainder of the barrel. The pen is rather light and feels nice in the hand. It is plenty long enough for me to use unposted, which is a good thing because the cap is not designed to post. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. With the lack of metal in this pen, eyedropping should work just fine if you take the appropriate precautions. The Motor City Pens Thermal Shift V6 can be found on the company's website and sells for $250. The i6 model, which I will show you more of here in a bit, sells for $180. I'll put a link in the site, to the site in the notes below. Alex was kind enough to provide a discount code. If you use the code Figboot 2023 or Figboot 2023, you can receive a 20% discount on any pen currently in stock on the site, except for custom order pens. The last time I checked, there was no current inventory of the thermal shift pens on the site. With many small manufacturers, the inventory on the site can vary depending on how much time they have to create a product. If you are interested in this thermal shift material, there might be inventory up on this site in the near future, or you could contact the company via their website where you can inquire about a custom pen. And then you could tell over time here, just from handling it, how it has turned a little bit greener. Thanks again go out to Motor City Pens for providing these pens for review and for giveaway. In regard to the giveaway, it has been quite some time since I've done a Q&A, so why don't you leave me a question? In order to enter, you need to be a subscriber to this channel. There is a link to a Google form in the notes below. Just click on that, leave me your name, email address, as well as a Q&A question. 72 hours after posting this video, I will select an entry at random to win one of these pens. This one, the i6. Best of luck to you. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. So here we have some size comparisons for the Motor City pen. This is the V6, and then this is a closer look at the i6. This one did have the finial on there, and this one is kind of the darker maroon, and it shifts to almost more of a pinkish. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. But this one actually also has a nice 1.5 millimeter stub on it, and this will be the pen that is given away. And this is what they look like in comparison to one another. I thought that the V6 especially kind of looked like the Want Your Dream pen. It's a little bit smaller than that, but at least it has some of the same dimensions to it. This is what it looks like with a Diplomat Aero. And then here it is with a TWSBI Eco. In regard to a couple of other pens, here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point. And here it is with a Lamy 2000. And here it is with a Lamy All-Star. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the All-Star. And then here it is with the Want Your Dream pen. And here it is with the Lamy 2000. You can see here just from handling the pen during the size comparisons, it's starting to change a little bit. You know what? Maybe I'll hold this in my hand during the writing sample and we'll see how much it changes over a couple of minutes here. But what we have here is the Motor City pens. And this one here is the V6. And this is a broad stainless steel nib. And the ink, since this is a color changing pen, I thought it would be appropriate to use one of my favorite color changing inks, which is the Tassia Sabamidori. This is an ink which actually goes on blue and then turns into a really nice green. This is what it looks like once it dries. It's kind of a really nice green that has a little bit of shading to it, but when it goes on the page, it starts off very blue. This is what it looks like with Diamine's November Rain, as well as Robert Oster's River of Fire. Here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Am I going to fit? Just barely. This broad nib is very juicy and smooth. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of this pen, but I do like the juiciness of this broad nib. You can see here it kind of starts blue, and then as this dries, you'll see it kind of dry a little bit more green. In regard to reverse writing, actually does it very well. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. This ink flow is very nice on this pen. Now you can see here just from me using it that it started to change colors there, and then just from holding on to the section or holding on to the cap, you can see that that changed colors as well. So you can see how it does change color, and then after a little bit of time, then it will go back to its normal state. Okay, but I really wanted to show you how these drastically change. And for that, I'm actually going to use a hair dryer. I'm going to cut just for a second. You don't need to listen. I don't need to blow your ears out with a hair dryer, but let me kind of hair dry both of these pens, and then I'll show you what they look like. Okay, you can see here, I kind of just focused more on the barrel on this one. So it turns into more of a magenta or almost pink compared to the darker red here. And then you can see this one, since I've been using it, is starting to change a little bit more, but it turns into a very bright green. And that, you know, in a few minutes, if I leave this alone, it'll go back, both of these will go back to the original color, which I feel is kind of neat. So I would encourage you to check out the Motor City Pens website. Don't forget to use that Figboot 2023 discount code for a nice 20% discount. And as I mentioned before, these particular pens may or may not be on the site. If you don't see them up there, then you might want to custom special order them because I think that there's something interesting, and it's always fun to support an up-and-coming pen maker that is just relatively new to the pen making world, which is nice. And then on top of that, these pens perform very nicely. And then don't forget to enter to win this i6. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.